Hello friends, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel if you're enjoying the instruction that I am giving you. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about using the pinky finger, some tips and some exercises that you can practice. So do you know why it is so hard to use that dang pinky? Well, I'll tell you. Your third and your fourth finger, so your ring and your pinky finger, are the only two fingers that share a tendon in your hand. So they have one tendon for two fingers. So that is why it is so hard to get the pinky to move independently, because it shares that tendon. So when I start out my students, I do not start using the pinky finger right away. I start with 1, 2, and 3, and I don't introduce the pinky until perpetual motion. Now, the time this takes obviously depends on the student. Everybody is different, but I don't recommend starting with the pinky finger right away just because it is challenging. So when you are ready to start using your pinky finger, I suggest practicing some exercises to kind of strengthen it before just going straight into using it. So the first exercise that I like to practice is this, simply tapping the pinky. Now when you're doing this, make sure that your pinky is tapping where you want it to go. So there should be some space between your 3 and 4. It shouldn't be tapping back here. Okay, again, you're strengthening it, getting it used to kind of separating from that third finger. The second exercise I would practice is this, plucking the string with the pinky. Again, just working on that strength. We need to build up its pinky muscle, so it has to go to the pinky gym. And then I would practice going open, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then back on all strings. I would probably use the first twinkle variation, so it might sound something like this. Now you might have noticed when I put my fourth finger down, all of the rest of my fingers stayed down as well. I think that's very important when practicing that exercise. Practice that exercise on all 4 strings, and we do need to talk a little bit about the elbow. So the elbow placement is going to differ depending on what string you're on, especially if you're using the pinky finger. So I'm here on E, I'm here on A, here on D, and here on G. So you can see that my elbow swings inward as I go down the strings, and you can tell that is going to help my pinky reach. Now, when you are using your pinky finger, it's important that you do not alter your wrist at all. So a lot of times I'll see students do this, where they're sticking out their wrist in hopes to make using that pinky finger easier. It's not going to be easier if you do that. So try to keep your wrist straight. If anything, you can bring it in slightly, but I would try to keep it just as close to your normal hand frame as possible. If you are very small and have a very small hand, you might find that you need to alter the position of your thumb. So usually my thumb is across from my first finger. If I have a very small hand, or if I'm having trouble reaching my pinky finger, I could move my thumb up so it's across from second finger. That's going to make it a little bit easier to reach, and it's just going to balance your hand a little bit better as well. I want to say a note about the shape of the pinky finger. So all hands are different, and I don't think any 2 pinky fingers are going to look the same. No 2 hands are going to look the same in general, right? But I think the most important thing with pinky is that you are on the very, very tip of your finger, okay? So not on the pad like this, but really, really on the tip. This is especially important when you're shifting up, because obviously the notes get closer and closer together. So you need to be on the tip as much as possible. When you're first starting out, your pinky might look something like this. Kind of like that. And this happens because you do not have enough strength in this joint right here. So while this is okay at the beginning, you do need to try to strive to curve it as much as possible, because when you are doing vibrato, if your pinky looks like this, it's going to be extremely difficult. It's going to be a lot easier if your pinky looks more like this. So that's something to consider right from the very beginning. Now, I know a lot of students avoid using their pinky finger because it's hard, when we actually need to do the opposite. We need to work on the things that are hard, right? So do not avoid your pinky finger. We most often use our fourth finger to prevent a string crossing. So if I was playing a passage that was mostly on A and I had some E's in there, I would just use my fourth finger instead of going to open E, because that's a lot easier. Obviously, when you shift up, you have to use your fourth finger, your pinky finger, because that's a whole different note. I also really like to incorporate my pinky in scales. So when we're going up the scale, you can use your open string, and when you go down the scale, you must use your pinky finger. Again, just another way of practicing it, of strengthening it, and making sure that you are not neglecting it, because it is very important to use your pinky finger in violin technique. Finally, I think that one of the best exercises that you can practice to improve your pinky finger is Shradik number 1. I will leave a link to it down below. If you've never heard of it, you can find it for free on imslp.org. Just search Shradik, SCHRADIECK. It's in the School of Violin Techniques, and it's the first one. Again, I'll leave it linked down here below. But essentially, it's just 1, 2, 3, and 4 in different combinations. So that will really help you with strengthening your pinky finger. And when you're using it, try to keep it above the string like this and not curled back like this. And when you're practicing Shradik number 1, do not feel limited by just playing it on the A string. It's written all on the A string. Play it on all 4 strings. Play it in different finger patterns. You don't have to stick to 2 and 3 close. Maybe you could do 1 and 2 close. Maybe you could do all whole steps. Maybe you could do 3 and 4 close. Again, just to help strengthen your fingers and get that pinky finger its muscles. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, definitely leave them down in the comments. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you so much for watching.